We're printing $100,000 every 3 seconds of debt. $100,000 every 3 seconds.
It's probably
That's
going to be
$1 million every 30 seconds. $2 million a minute.
Probably going to be a quintillion dollars in our lifetime.
I love how Thomas Massey wears the pin. On his,
it actively calculates the national debt.
He just gave one to Ron Paul. It made me very happy. I love that guy, Thomas Massey.
Yeah,
but people don't understand what this means because they're like, what does that mean? I don't know anything about that. Like, I have my money. It means that right now you want to buy a house, you're not going to be able to. It means that your milk that you buy today is going to cost twice as much tomorrow.
That's if nothing changes, if we're on stay on this track forever. We can alter our gross domestic production capacity by pivoting to hydrogen fuel. I actually talked with James Stewart today.
Look at this. Okay, so the current U.S. Money supply is 20.6 trillion. U.S. Treasury dollars is 1.5 trillion, and the currency and credit derivatives is 634 trillion. Wait, no. Is that trillion dollars?
Damn.
600 trillion?
Yeah, trillion.
Well, when you hear numbers like that, it's just like, it's like, what does that even mean?
The only time that anyone has ever used those numbers outside of the national debt is in like physics, when you're talking about the numbers of like particles in the universe. It's like it takes that kind of like that, something that massive. Otherwise, these numbers are completely and totally impractical. The human mind can't even comprehend it.
And it's the rate of change that's also where it becomes highly impractical.
Holy, you guys ready for this? Yeah. The U.S. federal debt to GDP ratio is 124.43%. Wow. In 1980, it was 34. Remember 1980? I wasn't alive. But we all know about the Jimmy Carter era.
And John Lennon died in December of 1980. My mother.
What did you say it was in 1980?
The 34.7.
Oh, okay.
And this is I believe 80 was Carter, right?
Yeah.
Well, or was that when he was getting out?
Yeah, Reagan was elected in 80.
Right.
Or 79 and then was put in office in 80 or something like that.
Or it's 80 81, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
And I can't verify that this website's actually legit either. I never have been able to verify
that.
But
the debt clock?
Yeah. This is all public data. Yeah. And then I remember it was a big deal because one day it put like Jesus Christ is Lord on the front page, and you had to like exit out to see. And people were like, "Wow!" Like conservatives were all like, "Whoa, holy crap!" Because this is like a big website. Mm-hmm. Something like that happened. It was recently, I think. Look at this: the interest on the debt, $676 billion.
That's not even that much.
Man. Is that a lot of money?
I thought it was going to be interest way more than that.
The interest on the debt is going up.
I've always considered.
No, I think this is specifically for the interest on the debt is for Medicare, Social Security, and defense.
Wow.
But the issue is that's not the debt. That's the interest on top. It's going up. We're not paying that down. As Ian often brings up, if the interest keeps going up, you can't pay back more interest by taking another loan to pay back. You get more interest.
Yep. We need to increase the value of our dollar is what we need to do worldwide.
Gold standard.
Yeah, I'm big into hydrogen fuel, and because if we can start producing things that are and graphene, because if we can start producing things that we can sell around the world, graphene's like $60,000 a ton, and they are just churning it out at Rice University right now.
What is that stuff that like blue crab blood or whatever? You know what I'm talking about?
Blue crude.
No, is that what they call it? It's horseshoe crab blood, like the most expensive material in the world or something.
I'm from Long Island, and we just had every once in a while some random like horseshoe crab genocide would happen or something, and they just be all over the beach. And I always hear that it's worth money, their blood, and I'm like, man, I should have been collecting their blood when I was a kid.
Those are like the blue horseshoe crabs or whatever, and they like hook them all up to tubes and extract blood slowly, and it's like.
I don't know what the deal is, but I've seen that.
It's antibacterial. It's valued in the medical industry.
But we need when you talk about a dollar, like I'm a libertarian, so we're always talking about the gold standard, but we could have a different commodity-based dollar. There are different things that can back the dollar.
Hey, we can go to 2027. We can go to the future. Based on all these projections, where we'll be.
Oh, give it to me.
Oh my God. I love this.
This is 4 years from now.
4 years from now, the average family is going to have $100,000 in their savings. That is really bad. Well, that is not good.
It says today that the average family has 11,000.
Yep.
And it says it's going to be 10x in 4 years.
And if the debt to GDP ratio goes from 124% to 150%, that means just a general correlation is not perfect, but that 10x increase and how much money you have correlates with like a 12 times decrease in your buying power.
Spend your dollars. Get rid of them. Buy even like I know that like there's people
That sounds like financial advice, Phil.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not giving you any
common
financial
sense.
advice.
I mean, kind of.
I like to spend dollars and get things that are valuable. I know that whether it be Bitcoin or gold or silver or ammo or
Property.
whatever, land is great. I think that I'm going to be buying things that are going to retain value or go up in value. I'm probably not going to be hanging on to very much cash.
I like to invest in machines that I can use to increase my income, my profitability, things like that. A really good camera, a really good microphone if you use it.
I mean, look, I'm not.
Assets per citizen 1.2 million.
I ain't telling you what to do, but electronics don't hold their value.
Yeah, but it's you use it in the short term to increase productivity.
Sure,
essentially.
fair enough.
I've turned into like a Civil War nerd since I moved to Virginia because there's like a million battlefields where I live.
And there's signs everywhere. You notice
really
them?
cool.
Like you'll go to a dock for like to launch a fishing boat, and there's like a sign be like, "This is where this general killed this general." And you're like,
I live
wow.
near Petersburg, and it was like almost a year's long siege around the city, so there's battles everywhere. But it's got me kind of collecting like old antiques, and that's actually a really good investment. Like really old antiques. They just
like a
they
Charizard.
really go up in value.
Magic cards.
Charizard
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
Or a Mewtwo.
I used to have so many. The crazy thing is, I think I had probably like 5 first edition Charizards when I was a kid, and they were like worth a little bit. I don't even know what happened to them; they're all gone. But now they're worth like $10,000 to $200,000.
Have you checked your
Did
attic?
Beanie Babies ever get?
I have not an
Were
edit.
they-
I
were
lost
they
all
ever
of my
worth
old
holding on
Magic
to?
cards. That was
don't
brutal
know.
one day on a train. We were on a train, and I fell asleep, and then they're like, "Oh, we're at our stop. Get up!" And I get up and jump off the train, and I turn back, and the door closes, and I'm like,
snap.
"All of my cards gone." And that's probably $100,000 worth of Magic cards gone.
Now, yeah.
They're really
Back
worth
then-
that much now?
Now,
yeah.
yeah. But because the cards back then were not that valuable, but we're talking 24 years. Now they're all extremely rare and out of print and more
I
valuable.
wonder what an Alpha Black Lotus is. What? $1.2 million for an Alpha Black Lotus?
Was it like rated 10?
Yeah,
Is that a Magic
9.5.
card?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
the most valuable
yeah.
Magic card. 1.2 million. That thing was like 600,000.
Yeah, but you're probably looking at like a special
4
auction
years ago.
because
Maybe.
a rated 8 is $140,000.
Okay.
That's crazy. Wow.
$1 million for a freaking piece of cardboard.
It was $700 when I was a kid, and we were like, "Wow, $700! That's crazy, man."
Wow.
But
Who knows what's going to be worth money? You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. Do you remember the Beanie Babies? Everybody was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
these are going to be
Yeah.
worth something
Worthless.
one day," but I don't think they ever were.
Nope. That was a tulip thing. That was a Dutch tulip fiasco.
But
that's
Phil,
all.
I think a cool thing for you to like spend money on and collect, you could get antique like firearms from like the 1800s.
Yeah.
And they look awesome, and you can mount them on your wall,
friend.
and they just grow in value. Oh wow.
That's an actual Union Civil War rifled musket.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I have a
Yeah.
breech loader. I forget the
That's
name
what
of it.
That's what I need.
Breech loading rifle from the Civil War era.
I have a pinfire revolver, which is kind of a
Percussion
rare
cap?
type. Pinfire, like it had a little pin that stuck out of it, and the hammer would hit the pin, and that's what would fire the shell.
wow.
Yeah, they weren't around for long, but cavalry officers had them on the Union and Confederate side. So it's pretty cool. It's like I bought it for like $800 a few years ago, and it's just
They used
the longer you hold on to it, the more valuable
I
it
think
gets.
I think the revolvers back then were the more ubiquitous was the percussion cap, and that's so like little metal primer goes in the back of each chamber, and then it hits the primer, which ignites the musket ball or whatever they were using.
Yeah.
the bullet at the time.
I wish
And
I
then
could
we've actually got some actual Civil War bullets because we have a Civil War bayonet somewhere.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we found it on the property,
yeah,
and it's all
Wow.
rusted and and we're just like, oh, whatever. They're all over the place.
yeah.
super cool.
I've
Yeah.
been metal detected on my property because there's a battle.
One of my
I'm wondering what relics people will find from the next Civil War. So they're gonna find
Magic
an
cards.
iPhone 15 and
my
Apple
buddy
Watch.
back in New Hampshire, he does a lot of metal detecting, and he's trying to get into off limit places because New England's been around a long time, so people
Yeah.
have done a lot of hunting and stuff. So he's trying to find places where he's not allowed that he can sneak into. But I won't blow him up.
Well, I'm kind of like, yeah, if we sit around and just kind of complain for the next 6 months, it could be the end of the world. But if we really pioneer new tech, like hydrogen tech, and really push it, we could probably come out of this on top.
it depends. So if what we're facing right now is actually a legitimate threat of World War III, the population decrease from war and from the fact that people don't have kids means what you're hoping for is less likely to occur. Technological expansion typically requires population expansion. Like the how many people does it take to make one monitor screen? It's probably like 500 different specialties to make one computer monitor. But because of the international economy and how everything operates, someone gets cobalt here and someone gets, quartz here and someone mines the oil or drills for the oil over here. And then they all go on these different marketplaces. I think a really good example is probably just like pad thai or something, some like ridiculous dish that has a spice from Asia and a vegetable from Mexico. And you're like, this unnatural demonic food would never exist were it not for our big oil tankers, our big cargo ships around the oceans to bring all these ingredients together.
That's true.
If the population declines too much, you lose specialties. And then you're going to have a guy who's going to be like, look, man, we need someone who can extract hydrogen, but we don't have that anymore. So I can work on that, but then we don't have a guy who handles the plastics. We don't have a guy who handles the electronics.
But Ian, you're worried about like the World War III bringing the world to an end, or is there something else you're worried about? Is it World War that's got you nervous?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, for what I do, I basically read the new, all day, every day I sort through like hundreds of news articles and read about this, war in Ukraine, tensions with China and all that. And I don't like to be hyperbolic in my show and stuff, but I always say, like, if we wake up tomorrow and Russia bombed a NATO base in Poland and we're actually at war with Russia, or if a Chinese ship and an American ship shot at each other in the South China Sea and then it escalated and all of a sudden we're at war with China, don't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised because at this state of the world that we're in right now, they're just pushing everybody all over the planet. It's really, it is very scary. And again, I don't try to be over hyperbolic, but what they're doing, they're leading us down a path of global war, the likes of which, we've never seen, especially with new technology.
And I always want to stress too, because especially when we had, I'll shout out again, Culture War Podcast, youtube.com/Timcast. Stephen Marsh and I were talking before the show started because I showed him the Civil War rifle, and he was like, "What was the first battle?" And I was like, "Bull Run, Manassas." And he was like, "Right," and they didn't even think it wasn't even a battle; it was like a street fight, like nobody knew what was going on. And I'm like, "Yes, what we consider to be the first battle. I mean, obviously Fort Sumter is the start of it, but that wasn't even a battle. It was like only one guy died, and it was an accident.
I don't think anybody died.
One guy.
And it was an accident.
It was one death. It was accidental. It was like I can't remember exactly what happened, but." Then you had the first battle of Bull Run, and no one thought the fight was actually going to happen. And at the time when it did happen, nobody called it the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Nobody called it the war in the States. It was not a war at all. Now we look back and say it was.
Both sides thought it would be over so quick.
So it's possible that in 100 years, they say World War III started December of 2022.
Yeah.
It's possible they say it started with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Mm-hmm. The U.S. responded.
I tend to think of it as 9/11 personally. The U.S. was just stomping on everyone's neck for the first 18 years of it.
Yeah, but bro, the U.S. has been doing that for a lot longer than.
But 9/11 changed, like lockdown, police state crap, Patriot Act. People were getting, take your shoes off at the airport kind of crap, looking over your shoulder, afraid of Muslims, like all this dumb.
I'll tell you. So just an anecdote about when I went to China. I remember I was getting on the plane to fly. I forget where we were flying next. But I was all nervous going through their security. I was like, I'm going to have to take my shoes off. It's China. They're going to really go crazy and pat me down. And I started like taking my belt off and they're just like, come on through. And they just like hit me with the wand. And I was like, oh, wow. And then when we got back into the US, my wife bought like some hand cream in Australia and they put it in like a special bag. And they were like, you can't, they like shook her down and like ripped apart all her stuff and said she couldn't bring it in. Or if she wanted to, she had to like mail it to. It was crazy. And I'm like, this is just the remnants of 9/11 of what they did to us after that. It hasn't gone away.
I mean, I don't know if it's the remnants of 9/11. The thing that we're experiencing is not actually about stopping terrorism.
Yeah.
It's the fact that once you start a government program, they never go away. It's the infrastructure for the TSA that was designed designed initially to stop terrorism. Never stopped a thing.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
So what happens is the U.S. government says we're going to spend $100 million on war. They invest in all these companies. The companies build up a big employee base. They hire a bunch of people. Next year comes around, and that company goes to Congress and says, are you going to give us that same deal again? And go, well, I don't think we need it. There's no war. And they go, listen, we employ 500 people in your district. And if we don't have this contract, we're firing them. And we're going to tell them it's because of you. No. You got my vote. You got my vote.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what we got to do is make hit music. Oh, I'm talking like Marvin Gaye. We need to make babies, and we need to inspire people to have sex.
Yeah, we gotta make
and have children, and that's music. That's like, because if we have kids, it's not enough. You need to mass produce love. And we need to make hydrogen fuel and graphene to get out of this steel hellhole that we're in and start making lightweight superconductors locally really fast and cheaply.
I'm gonna on a bone.
I got to stop right here. Ian is completely correct on graphene because steel was such a large component of our industry, of our jobs, of our economy. The Steelers, Pittsburgh. How much steel is still being made in the U.S.? I do not believe very much. But either way, if we had an industrial revolution on par with, what it was in the past, and we bring back a bunch of jobs, you could have manufacturing plants pop up all over the place. It could revitalize dying towns. It could create new cities, and it's going to have to be, we often do joke about graphene and Ian's fervor, but the reality is, it is a bold move to reconfigure an economy towards building a material that can be used to expand and create a bunch of new products. My favorite example, a lot of the stuff we use, plastics, for instance, and I think paper towels, a bunch of stuff, were invented for space. So, like, a lot of the things we use are invented by
Space race.
The space race. And then it's like, oh, this is convenient. People might want to use it. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.